Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Present.
Councilmember Bruno,
Here.
Councilmember Clark, Councilmember Drosha,
Here.
Councilmember Ferris,
Here.
Councilmember Mulvaney, Mayor Waltz.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Will you please rise and join in the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, we are grateful for, in our area, our continued good weather, our mild weather. We are concerned, though, for other communities that have suffered more severe weather. We ask that you watch out over those communities and be with those citizens who have been impacted by the weather. We also ask that you watch over Councilmember Mulvaney, who is in Florida, a family issue he had to take care of, and be with him on his safe travels back to Michigan. Also, look out for our first responders in Mason, Hingham County, state of Michigan, everywhere in this country, and our men and women of our armed forces who fight for our freedoms that we enjoy. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Thank you.
Are there any announcements this evening, council members? Hearing none. Item 5 on the agenda is people from the floor. Anybody that wishes to address the council, please address us from the podium. State your name and address for the record, and we'll give you approximately 3 minutes. Good evening, Mr. Carmichael.
Good evening. My name is Jack Carmichael, and I live at 519 South Rogers Street in Mason. Following my 18 years of successful environmental work representing the American government at the United Nations and other international organizations, I also worked for 5 years on issues of national security. Recall that during my first intervention to the Mason City Council, I presented each of you with a copy of my May 28th letter to then Administrator Marty Colburn. I suggested that Mason consider retaining the services of an experienced oil and gas attorney, Attorney Jim Olson of Traverse City, to help ascertain the city's legal right to intervene in the case of the West Bay Exploratory Company proposal to drill for oil under Mason. Since I was not aware that the council acted on my recommendation, I spoke with Attorney Olson last week. Attorney Olson has represented Shelby Township and Scioto Township near Ann Arbor in their successful efforts to resist oil drilling under their residential properties. He pointed out that land use is not limited to activities occurring on the surface. He stated that the City of Mason can disallow oil drilling under its boundaries under the zoning ordinance. Apparently, this is not superseded by state law. You may reach Attorney Olson at his Traverse City law firm, telephone 231-946-0044. Acting Administrator Price privately expressed to me his concern that if the city intervened to stop West Bay, then the city might be sued by one or more citizens who had signed a lease. That seems highly unlikely, since the oil royalties are estimated at between 35 cents and 46 cents a day for a property owner. See my paper, Vanishing Royalties, for details of the calculation. A copy of this intervention and vanishing royalties are herewith presented to the mayor. Again, I urge the City Council to act against the proposed drilling under Mason by the West Bay Exploratory Company. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Carmichael. I'll make copies of this. Is there anybody else that wishes to address the council this evening? Yes.
Greetings, Councilman. My name is Jennifer Graham. I live at 529 Main Court here in Mason, Michigan. I support Dr. Jack Carmichael's views and concerns regarding the West Bay project. Like many Mason residents, I just recently learned of the proposed West Bay Exploration's plans to place a wellhead adjacent to the city of Mason and horizontally directional drill under the homes of Mason residents to extract oil from the Niagaran Reef. I attended the meeting held by Representative Cochran and Senator Hertel Jr. Several concerned residents agreed it would be beneficial to hold an additional forum to discuss the pros and cons. Many residents have no clue about this project. Shouldn't it be the duty of the City of Mason to host a meeting to address this project in detail? If this topic is so important to bring the senator and representative to host a forum in our town, doesn't our city owe it to the residents to host a meeting? Consider that. Along with the suggestion for a town meeting, I would like to urge the City of Mason to act upon Dr. Carmichael's suggestions that have been previously stated. A visit to the Register of Deeds revealed that West Bay has not filed the lease agreements at this time for this proposed project. The time to act is now, before construction has begun. I feel West Bay has strategically kept information from the public and placed the wellhead in the Vevay Township to ensure they are able to take advantage of the loopholes found in Michigan Zoning Enabling Act 110 of 2006 and House Bill 4746. Our city government may feel like their hands are tied by state laws that govern zoning over these types of projects, but it has come to my knowledge that the city does have a legal power over this matter and can halt West Bay from placing well pipes under our city limits. If other cities can have moratoriums or ordinance provisions that would allow this to be halted from within the city limits, why can't we do the same for our cherished residents? The impact of this project will be felt directly here in Mason. An estimated 32 blocks, which is roughly 80 acres of landowners, will determine if they want to sign away their mineral rights to West Bay. This is a small fraction of landowners that will be making a decision that impacts all residents of Mason. I feel the City of Mason has not effectively communicated and advocated to safeguard the residents of this town against West Bay and other companies like them. As a mother, school volunteer, and a Mason resident, I urge you to consider listening to the residents, listening to the requests of your citizens. I respectfully thank you for your time and your consideration, Councilman. Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will make copies of these as well. You have copies? Thank you. As I'm sure everybody is aware, the City of Mason has been aware of a proposed project and has actively engaged our city attorney, our oil and gas attorney, and reviewed our own ordinances, how they are preempted by the state law and other zoning enabling acts that have been mentioned. However, we also realize that this is a moving target, so to speak, and that every subsequent council meeting we have, there is new information to evaluate something that may yet prove of an avenue for us to assist in what you're looking for. But we're working on that, and that's the best I can offer at this point. I hope that's helpful. Because we share your concerns, but we also have our own laws and ordinances and statutes to abide by, as well as those of the state of Michigan. Are there any others that wish to address the council? Thank you. Item 6 is the consent agenda, consisting of the approval of minutes of both the special council meeting of July 20th and the regular council meeting of July 20th, and the approval of the bills for the last period.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Drosha.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 7A, regular business, is the introduction and first reading of a nuisance abatement ordinance. And you will find, disregard. And prior to discussion on that, I would like to invite Chief Stressman to add any comments and insight to this.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. My name is John Stressman. I'm the Chief of Police for the City of Mason, and I'm here to discuss with you tonight the nuisance abatement recently created for the City of Mason by the City Attorney's Office at the Police Department's request. What this basically does is open an ability, give an ability to the Police Department to act on ongoing incidents that continue to happen that become a nuisance to the quality of life of Mason residents. It also addresses some issues that we have had in the past to pass off to state agencies, such as polluting the waterways. You may not remember, but a few years back we had occasion where a couple of carpet cleaning companies were dumping their tanks into the Sycamore. Those kinds of things that add to the aggravation and diminish the quality of life in Mason, we can deal with directly and take immediate action on without having to worry about whether state or larger entities can handle it for us. That's pretty simplistic. It's self-explanatory. It just enhances what we already have. It also highlights a number of chapters that are also included. This is meant to relate to case in point signs and utilities, flushing unnecessary chemicals into the water, into the sewer system, those kinds of things. If we are made aware of them, we have been in the past. We can deal with illegal dumping into the storm drains, all those kinds of things. But it's the quality of issues, quality of life issues that we're trying to address more specifically. And it also gives a little bit more of a few more tools for the code enforcement officer to use. Any questions?
Questions for the Chief? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chief, for bringing this to us tonight. Just a question. I don't know if you know this offhand, but I'm curious what the existing penalty for our nuisance abatement ordinance is, and would the same penalty apply then to this amendment?
I believe these are civil infractions. They're meant to be that way, so they're not. There's no criminal penalty attached. It's fines.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate your insight and expertise in the matter.
Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to introduce and read for the first time the proposed nuisance abatement ordinance.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to introduce and consider read for the first time the nuisance abatement ordinance. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 7B is the designation of a voting delegate and an alternate voting delegate for the Michigan Municipal League Annual Business Meeting, which is September 16th through 18th. Mr. Price, would you care to give us a brief introduction to this?
Yes, I believe in the past, historically, the Michigan Municipal League meeting, which is held annually, it used to be that we had several council members. That would be their one conference, generally, that the city paid for, as well as the legislative session. But as I understand it now, it's been in recent years that it's been sort of limited to two, that being the delegate, the voting delegate, as well as the alternate in the event that the delegate is indisposed, is not able to act on the city's interest. In this case, the city does pay for both the transportation costs, housing costs, food, of course. And anything more than that, I'd be glad to offer or answer your questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Grosha.
I would like to indicate my interest in going as perhaps an alternate voting member.
Okay. Is there any other interest? Councilmember Ferris?
I am also interested in going and attending.
Sure. I would also indicate my interest as well as the representative and Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a question for administration. While the Municipal League requires us to designate one voting delegate and one alternate, are we able to send additional members if our budget allows for that?
Yes, if the budget allowed for it, I guess. You know, it's like anything else. We can certainly come up with the money by taking from Peter to pay Paul, but I believe we've settled it basically for two, did we not? The registration fees?
Honestly, the amount in there is for their conference for the year, and there's $1,000 in there is what there is. So I don't know if that would be technically considered one or two as far as the conference goes. We have sent two in the past. We've sent at times Marty has gone as well, and there's been conference and travel in that budget as well. So,
Okay.
but yeah, as the budget shows, really there's $1,000 in there.
Well, just to make it clear, I have no interest, obviously, as an acting administrator, to go to the annual meeting. So if we have enough money for three, I think by $1,000 would be very close. Does that answer your question? You know, listen, if you want to send all of you, we obviously can come up with the money. The question is, do you want to stay within the budget? Your question is within the budget. If it's within the budget, I think we could probably do three.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bryce. I appreciate that clarification. And I also would just say I know that there are other opportunities that come up. For example, the May legislative conference that's in Lansing, that happens within the same fiscal year. So I think it would probably be prudent for us to limit ourselves to two and then maybe look at different members for a future conference. And with that, I'd like to make a motion. I move that we appoint Mayor Mike Waltz to serve as the City of Mason Principal Official Representative and Councilmember John Drosha to serve as an alternate to attend the 2015 MML Annual Meeting.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to appoint Mayor Mike Waltz as the principal delegate and Councilmember John Drosha as the alternate delegate for the MML conference in September. Is there any further discussion? I would just, one minor, as you've come to know, and I have a tendency to count pennies and nickels. The clerk and I did do some investigation middle of last week as far as lodging and availability, and determined that there is a reason why, for instance, the state of Michigan considers Traverse City a premium city, and the rates are higher if you travel into and out of Traverse City. Lodging is at a premium, and that alone at 3 would likely break our budget. So I do want to commend the council for being fiscally responsible and conservative in limiting it to 2, because that should keep us, that gives us a chance to stay within our budget on this. Any other discussion? Mayor Pro Tem?
I would just urge our delegates to bring back some cherry salsa.
I have also had a whisper in my other ear about bringing back lots of reports. So, so noted. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. See you in Traverse City. Okay. Item 7C is the interlocal contract for cooperative purchases, an intriguing bit of information. Mr. Price, would you please enlighten us on this?
Yes, and first of all, I did provide a new and a different resolution to conform with the City of Mason type resolution, and it's titled under 7C. It is that resolution to enter into an interlocal contract for cooperative purchasing that you all have at this point. The purpose of this is that the Houston-Galveston Area Council is set up as a regional, or in fact a national, clearinghouse for purchasing municipal items, from the biggest pieces of equipment to laboratory equipment at the wastewater treatment plant. It is my understanding that the fire chief fully intends to purchase through this HGAC, as they refer to themselves as, to purchase the tanker, the fire tanker that is scheduled, I believe, in this fiscal year's budget. So we will be working directly with them. The additional one is that one of the vendors for the street sweepers also quotes a price from this organization. And again, what it does, it saves thousands and thousands of dollars, because manufacturers, jobbers, middle people are putting basically everything on the line to sell their equipment, and it's going to come from one major source. Here in Michigan, we also have the state purchasing. They also have some things like fire trucks, street sweepers, and what have you, but it's not near as inclusive as this organization. So I feel there is no cost to this at this point. The cost is, and for the record, that if you purchase a large piece of equipment from them, it costs $1,800 per invoice. So if we were to purchase the fire truck and the street sweeper, it would be a total of $3,600. Now, does that push them out of being low? The answer is no. They're basically, if we were to bid this and these items ourselves and just send it out to vendors, we're probably looking at a 15% or 20% higher response than what this organization can provide, because they're doing it on a national basis. They're not selling one or two trucks. They're selling hundreds, if not thousands, of pieces of equipment. So the jobbers, the manufacturers, are going to give their best price for an organization such as this. And that's why they can afford to charge $1,800, because it's still quite a bit cheaper than we can do it ourselves.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a brief question to the administration. If we approve this particular interlocal contract, will administration still have to present to us the different bidders for both the fire truck and the street sweeper, meaning we would see different manufacturers and different price quotes?
We are going to provide you with we have gone to 3 street sweepers. The recommendation will be at the next council meeting. We are in the process now of getting quotes for financing. The One of them, the Whirlwind, is through a Michigan, their price is based on the Michigan contract, okay? The Johnston one is based on this one. The other one, we're not paying any attention to because it didn't meet the top of the bunch, okay? So we do have one from Michigan and the one from HGAC, and my hunch is the recommendation by Ken Baker, our Director of Public Works, is going to be using this organization to finance it or to purchase it. That purchase price of $245,000. I'll just let you know that. The Whirlwind is $265,000, and that's with the state. Okay. So we are not asking for we think we're getting the best, and I think this Johnston is going to do it. But I don't want to commit on that. He's on vacation this week, and we're going to be talking a lot more next week about the street sweeper recommendation. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Other questions for Mr. Price on this? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
I move to consider read a resolution to enter into interlocal contract for cooperative purchasing.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to consider the resolution to enter into an interlocal contract for cooperative purchasing referenced under regular business 7C. It's being considered read. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
There is one other item
Mr. Price.
on this relative to the question. As far as the fire truck, Mayor Pro Tem Brown, I don't think there will be competitive bids. I think what our fire chief is convinced that the way they break down this thing, we buy a chassis, then we buy compartments, and we buy the nozzles, and it's all broken down. So what I've been told by the fire chief is that we are going to get a Spartan chassis, which is made in Charlotte. But through their pricing, because it's the lowest that we can get.
And that's the way I took your answer, Mr. Price, is we had previous discussions about how we were going to select the fire truck, and it didn't involve the three quotes like I could see it would with the street sweeper device.
It's very, very hard to bid fire trucks. If you're looking at apples and apples, and because everything is so custom, okay, each manufacturer allows certain customization, where another manufacturer doesn't allow that. So in the future, just keep in mind, when we buy a fire truck, it is not generally going to be, it is going to be competitive. We know it's competitive, but we're not asking a bunch of manufacturers to submit bids.
Thanks for that clarification, Mr. Price. Do you have one to introduce, a resolution?
Yes, I do. City Council resolution to enter into an interlocal contract for cooperative purchasing, introduced by Bruno, second by Ferris, and this is resolution number 2015-40.
Is there any discussion on resolution 2015-40? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Resolution passes 5-0. Unfinished business. Councilmember Drosha.
I have none.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
I have none.
Councilmember Ferris.
None.
Councilmember Bruno.
None.
And I have none. Under new business, I'd like to state that I received several emails from Councilmember Mulvaney stating that he anticipated a family emergency out of state, and then that he was, in fact, en route out of state, requesting an excused absence. New business, Councilmember Drosha.
Since I'm assuming we're excusing Mr. Mulvaney, I can skip that. and Mr. Clark, or do we need to officially do that?
Make a motion.
Make a motion? Okay. I would move to excuse council members Mulvaney and Clark from tonight's meeting.
Second the motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to excuse council members Mulvaney and Clark. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Any other new business, Councilmember Groshek? Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, very briefly, I would just like to ask administration to provide us an update on the reasons why tonight's, or excuse me, all day's meetings with the MML were postponed, and if there is a tentative date for that rescheduled meeting.
Yes, it is pretty simple. We were working with the idea that it was August 3rd. They were dealing with August 10th. So who's on first? I don't know, but anyway, we're not going to go to the 10th. We're going to make it the 17th because that's a regular council meeting. We're going to try to schedule these meetings so that it doesn't impact your time. So we're setting the renewal, basically, of everything that we intend to do today is going to be done on Monday, August 17th, 2 weeks from tonight. It's going to be at 6 o'clock for the council to listen to the public. We're only going to have one instead of before we had 1 o'clock and 6 o'clock because it was such short notice. Our plan now is to have it once at 6 o'clock. Kathy will be here from the Michigan Municipal League. She would not have been able to be here, by the way, tonight. It would have been a different person, but our person, our human resource coordinator, was dealing always with the August 3rd, and then today, this morning, when she called up, they said there's nobody available to come today, and that they had set up for the 10th, and we never talked about the 10th. So it just is one of those things. But we are going to reschedule it 2 weeks from tonight. Everything is going to, we're going to have department heads, we're going to have city employees, we're going to have the public, and of course, we're going to have the council.
Thank you very much.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to respond as well. I was going to just briefly touch on that during the council member reports, but as Mr. Price had stated, it was a little bit of a case of skewed calendars, it would seem, and they did have the options available for the 10th and the 17th. However, the advantage of the 17th was Kathy, our presenter, who was billed as the lead expert, subject matter expert during our presentation, would be available that evening. We are meeting anyway that evening, so logistically it was a matter of convenience that might set us back at most 7 days in this process. But on the flip side of that, it allowed for an additional 7 days noticing to the citizens, and it's my understanding that that their visits are numbered, but what we do during the visits is totally up to us. So what I'm understanding we're going to have is 5 meetings that day. 2 of them will be for the general public, the first one and the next to the last. And that allows for people who are in the city during the day to attend the first one, and in the city in the evening, like after work, to attend the second one. In between the first and the second is as scheduled before, the department heads and then the non-department heads, but the remaining city staff, so that the 2 meetings, the entire city group of employees has opportunities to sit down with Kathy. And then lastly, the council will have their own. As you noticed tonight, it was kind of a combined. It would have been the general public followed by the council. We'll have a brief intermission between the 2, and then the council will have the opportunity for the last hour of just a 7-to-1 ratio, if you will. And that's what we were able to gain out of the delay process. Did I leave anything else out, Mr. Price? You think?
Did say that Kathy said it would be at 1 o'clock?
Yes. Well, she did not have the exact times yet, but she was going to set up the 5 different discrete.
Today she said there would be 1 at 6 o'clock. So if If the council would like 1 o'clock, we can do both.
Let's touch base with her and see if
Okay.
she's made a final arrangement, because it
Okay.
may have changed since we spoke on the phone, so. So a little bit of a bumpy start, but we have started.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. New business, Councilmember Ferris.
Nothing.
Councilmember Bruno. No. Under correspondence, you have the Michigan DHHS oral health letter and the 2014 certificate of appreciation, and also a letter of absence from Councilmember Clark. Liaison reports. Traffic.
Traffic did not meet. We are scheduled to meet again in October.
Tree Commission.
Nothing more to report, but I would like to clarify my remarks last meeting. We will be continuing to accept trees for the sesquicentennial, but if you do want them planted this fall, it would be best if we got the money in by August, end of August, so they can be planted. Thank you.
Thank you.
This year.
With the absence of Councilmember Mulvaney, there will also be an absence of the Historic District Commission report. Planning Commission, Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Planning Commission will meet next Tuesday, August 11th at 6:30 p.m. here at City Hall.
And the DDA will meet in September. Council member reports. Any reports of significance? As was mentioned during the People from the Floor, there was a town hall meeting that was held at the Mason Area Historical Society, and it was facilitated by Representative Tom Cochran and Senator Curtis Hertel. It lasted for approximately 3 hours. The first 2 hours was a very in-depth and informative presentation by an individual from Michigan State University who was an expert and had a considerable experience in oil leases and mineral rights, and had a very good presentation that answered a lot of questions. That was followed by staff from the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality who are in the oil and gas program that get involved when a township does have a wellhead in their jurisdiction, and they went through step by step and detail by detail the regulations that are involved, the permitting, inspection, and other processes to ensure the health, safety, and well-being of the residents, both in the township and, in our case, nearby city. And again, very, very professional group of individuals and good information. That was followed by a question and answer session. A lot of the questions were focused on fracking and slant drilling, and the individuals that had presented were not subject matter experts so much in those areas, and the facilitators, Representative Tom Cochran and Senator Curtis Hertel, they recognized that, and they were having discussions of having another town hall meeting in the near future that would allow for discussion of those. It was acknowledged, though, at this point that the project that we're hearing about that may be proposed in the near future involving West Bay does not use the fracking technique. They had gone on the record and stated that they would not be employing that technique, and the DEQ supported that from a geological standpoint, that due to the shale formations that currently exist under the city, that there is absolutely no need to do that. So it seemed like that might become a non-issue, but again, as I had said, this is a moving target, and there's new information. So I just wanted to share the information that secondhand that I got from attending that. Councilmember Mulvaney was in attendance also, and perhaps he could shed some light on his perspective at the next council meeting. I did leave a message with Tom Cochran's office inquiring if there was another date set yet for a meeting, and if there would he let me know, and I'd pass that on as soon as I hear anything, but as of today, I have not heard anything. Any other council member reports? Administrator's report. Mr. Price. How was your week, Ben?
Off to a shaky start this morning. Found out none of this was going to happen. But anyway, yeah, I want to just make sure that the people from the floor brought up some issues. And as far as the administration is concerned, because the council has not said anything, that we are to do nothing, right? Suggestions were made to contact their attorney and zoning ordinance issues, and is the council satisfied that we know? It may be worthy of another discussion. As it's been left, we have tasked our city attorney with monitoring and being vigilant with anything that changes with that. The clerk is watching for any permits that might be requested from the city that would be required if anything was to transpire within our city boundary. And if we have new information of substance, for instance, what was mentioned that other communities had a mechanism in place that allowed, and I'm speculating what that might be, which is not good, but allowed for prohibiting activities which are permitted by the state, that we could take a look at that. So it's something we may want to have a discussion on in the near future. Our ordinances are always designed that we can be more restrictive than state law. But we have to have the jurisdiction. And again, based on the city attorney's opinion, we do not have any jurisdiction whatsoever relative to the proposed well site south of town. So right now, we are doing nothing, and we've been told to do nothing by the city attorney because we have absolutely no jurisdiction. And the other thing that he did say was the diagonally drilling was under the control, the absolute control of the DEQ supervisor of wells. Now, this was alleged not to be true in the persons from the floor, but I would recommend at this time, before the city council would do anything regarding West Bay, is to have that professor of geology from Michigan State University appear before this body and talk about well drilling in the state of Michigan, because there are over 60,000 wells. And as a geology professor who deals quite closely with oil and gas wells, I think he could offer a lot of sound and viable information.
Very true. The experts from the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality also echoed the same thing as our city attorney, that once the well was drilled in that manner, that it was entirely under the authority of the supervisor of wells, which is under the authority of the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality. So they were speaking with considerable authority as to whose jurisdiction that was, and it was not ours.
Well, there was a comment made tonight that was wrong, and I think we have to make sure who we're responding to and for what reason we're responding to.
Okay. Find time for Councilmember Mulvaney to be absent, because he was there for that same town hall meeting and could share some insight relative to this discussion. At this point, I would invite any other comments from council members. This has been an ongoing, we took the preliminary steps that we did with the city attorneys, you recall. What's your pleasure?
I think that's the answer.
Okay.
I have nothing else.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Price. With that,
May I give one more? I'm sorry, I forgot about this earlier.
Councilmember Ferris.
Thank you. I neglected to give you the upcoming blood drive that Kiwanis has been doing for over 53 years. It's the 13th, which is a Thursday, at St. James Church from 11:15 to 5:30. And the need is greater in the summer because of about 30% of the donors happen to be college students, and of course, they're not back yet. So your gift is appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ferris. Mr. Price, just a follow-up. Having had the 60 seconds of Councilmember Ferris' announcement to think about that, if Representative Cochran and Senator Hertel are already organizing something, it may be a prudent idea to simply help advertise what they have organized and planned rather than duplicate their efforts. And maybe we can work in conjunction with them. We can look into that in the next couple of days and see where they're at to help us determine where we're at. That might be a logical approach.
Yes.
Okay.
Also, I have a question of Councilmember Ferris. The tree planting, where can these trees be planted? I'm sure this has been answered, but I'm new, and I would like to also advertise it maybe once more with our local newspapers as to this issue.
Certainly. The form is actually online, and the city clerk has it, but the trees are planted on the parkways and public parks and community buildings, but it's has to be public land because we're using public facilities, public monies to put them there. So thank you.
And I presume there are some trees that are banned, in other words, that you can't plant.
Yes, we do have a suggested list of trees, and the Department of Public Works people are inspect the site and see if there needs to be a tree there or not. And, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for the administrator? We are adjourned.